Hello, I'm AstrologerCoach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming new moon, which will be exact on February 27th at 7:45 p.m. New York time, and on February 28th at 12:45 a.m. London time, so right after midnight London time. And the moon aligns with the sun in 9.5 degrees of Pisces, and this, of course, is the beginning of a new moon cycle, as all new moons. And this new moon also is the beginning of eclipse season, which will last until April 21st, so where we're entering eclipse season with this new moon. Eclipses will begin 2 weeks after this new moon. And eclipse season is usually an unpredictable time. We're recalibrating on a physical, mental, and emotional level, which gives us a chance to move to the next level of our personal evolution and also our collective evolution. But sometimes when we're moving into that next space, we sometimes feel a little bit out of sorts, or things can feel a little bit unpredictable. So the questions here to ask are, what am I aware of until the end of April, until eclipse season has completed? What do I become aware of within myself, within the collective? And then also, what am I going to consciously choose as I become aware of some of these things that are coming up for myself? And where will I focus my mind and my heart? And this is always important, that we're integrating that mind-heart energy, especially with this eclipse cycle and with the next couple of eclipse cycles that we're going to be having. And then one last question you can ask is, what might become possible if I got 5% more comfortable with being in transition? And this is always a great question to ask during eclipse season, because eclipse season is a time of transition. Now, we will also discuss eclipse season in connection with the current moon nodes in more detail in our very special webinar on Tuesday, February 25th at 6:30 p.m. New York time, 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. And if you like, you can join us live, or you can register to get an MP4 video presentation from this webinar. And just please remember, this webinar is a standalone event. Everyone has to register. This is just a quick, remember for my current members, star members. You're not automatically registered for this event. You need to get registered, and you will get a very special discount though for this event. So check your emails for that code. And it was included, if you're looking for that email, it was included in the last 2 monthly forecasting forum emails that was sent out to you. So you can check either one of those from February or from January. You got that discount code in those emails. And if you're a universal member, you enjoy a 10% discount at any time for all my live events, always. So that's a nice bonus. And then if you're watching this video after February 25th, which is a possibility since the new moon becomes exact after February 25th, click on the link below this video and get this wonderful 90-minute webinar about the moon nodes in Pisces, Virgo via my webinar page on my website. Now, back to the new moon. New moons are always the beginning of a monthly cycle, and they're really, really great time to pause, to reflect, to kind of go within, and also to set intentions for the next 28 days. So we'll talk a little bit more about that process in more detail at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that if you're interested in that. And since this new moon occurs in Pisces, it invites us to connect with our inner divinity and ability to receive, to trust our intuition, to trust life, and also to contribute from a heart-centered and empathic place when it comes to our interactions with other people. Now, in this new moon chart, we have two really highly exalted planets, Venus and Mars. Venus being the feminine principle and Mars being the masculine principle within each of us. And Mars is highly exalted because of its station phase, because it's ending its 11-week retrograde phase on February 23rd. So that's 4 days before the new moon becomes exact. And with this exalted energy and also with Mars being in Cancer, we feel more protective of our loved ones, also of our home situation or where we feel at home, and also our own feelings, how we feel, what feels good to us, what feels nurturing to us. And we feel more aware of safety, also safety issues, and in particular safety regarding achieving our own personal goals. So we want to feel safe within that. And Mars will make several harmonious aspects in this new moon chart to the planets in Pisces. And I will go into that in more detail below. But first, let's talk about the exalted Venus as well. Venus is going to be exalted for quite a while, since she's about to go retrograde on March 1st. And with that exaltation, we are encouraged to pay much closer attention to what truly matters to us. You know, Venus is all about what we value. It is about our preferences, our likes, our dislikes. And this is also a really great time to reflect on how we spend or invest our money. You know, to just take notice. We don't have to do anything. We just need to have awareness around it. And also what ignites our passions, because Venus is going to be in Aries at the time of the station. So what really ignites our passion? What makes our passion less severe, or what dampens our passion? And what's important to us right now? Now, like I mentioned already, Venus is going to come to a halt to start her 6-week retrograde phase on March 1st. And that's only 2 days after the new moon becomes exact. And I also covered those station phases, Mars and Venus, and the upcoming Venus retrograde phase in our most recent webinar, Courage Through Vulnerability. And if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend watching it. It's really a great way to understand those masculine and feminine principles. And if you don't have access to it yet, then just go to my website, to my webinar page, or just click on the link below this video. It's called Courage Through Vulnerability. And so this new moon chart, if we look at this new moon chart, there are 5 planets in Pisces. That is a lot of planets. That is the sun and the moon. Obviously, that's the new moon, sun and moon. But then we also have Saturn, we have Mercury, we have Neptune, which is the ruler of Pisces, also in Pisces, all of them in Pisces. And then Neptune also conjuncts the North Node in Pisces, as does Mercury. So the North Node is right in between Mercury and Neptune. And the North Node in Pisces represents our current soul's direction. And this alignment really asks us to pay particular attention to our connection with the divine and our intuitive knowing and the connection to the universe, to all of the universe, all the energy out inside and outside of us. And so ask yourself here, what are the consequences of mentally dissecting and over-analyzing everything? What are the consequences of that? And could I look beyond the mind and tap into the larger energy field around me? Could I look beyond the mind? And this is something that none of us very often do, because we're so often trapped by the mind. We're so often addicted to listening to all that chatter up here. And it's part of our conditioning too, in the culture that we grow up in the Western culture. So could I look beyond the mind and tap into the larger energy field around me? Because the more present we can be with ourselves and others and our own energy body, the more peaceful and calm we will feel. And this is important with that many planets in Pisces. That's really important. So ask yourself, could I make time for silence, surrender, and self-reflection over these next 28 days? And even if it seems impossible, even if it's just for a few minutes every day, could I make that time? Could I make time for silence, surrender, and self-reflection? Fantastic question with that many planets in Pisces, especially also with the North Node there. Now, Saturn is also involved in this planetary lineup, And this brings a more serious note to the bunch, and also a more practical tone. And so we're being invited to just more seriously and practically explore our divine nature. Sounds like an oxymoron, but Saturn is all about, what works, what doesn't work, how can we practice things so that we can get better at this particular energy. And so Saturn wants us to get really better at how we do the Pisces energy. It wants us to achieve spiritual mastery, you could say. So Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. There are 12, and Pisces is the last one because it starts with Aries. And so it connects to our spiritual journey. It connects to what's beyond the physical. And it represents a reunion with Source, with God, with the universe. It's really a reconnecting, a reunion. And at its highest vibration, Pisces unifies all duality. It is entirely aware of the nature of oneness, that everything is one, energetically speaking. And it tells us that there is a union within that exists always and that we can tap into whenever we choose. Now, with this many planets in Pisces, including Mercury, which rules Virgo and Gemini, which is the opposite of Pisces. Like Virgo is the opposite of Pisces. And is a very mental energy. And Pisces is the opposite of mental energy, right? Pisces is all about feeling and sensing and tuning in and, energetics. And so with Mercury being a part of that, we have to tune into our own vibration and essence to ground ourselves in the present. And if we cannot slow down and go within, we are probably going to feel the denser side of Pisces emerge quite acutely. Because if Mercury goes into that mental spin, into this busyness, we are going to feel that denser vibration of Pisces. And we might feel separate. We might feel fearful, anxious, victimized. The denser expression of Pisces also wants to escape the harsh realities of the world, if we're focusing too much on the outside world, for example. And of course, a mental overdrive and too much focus on the distractions that the world offers us all the time, that will keep us feeling exhausted and maybe even unwell. So we want to really pay attention to that. And one thing that's a really great way to counteract that would be to just spend time in nature. If you start to feel overwhelmed by what you're feeling or experiencing out there in the world, connect with nature. Because in silence, we feel that oneness with all there is and the unconditional love that the universe provides. And nature has such a beautiful way of presenting that. When we really just connect, truly get present in nature, as we go for a walk or as we sit somewhere or stand somewhere and just observe nature, we really get to feel that profoundly. So ask yourself, what is in the way of a connection to my inner divinity? And what prevents me from slowing down, turning inward, trusting my inner guidance? What prevents me from all of that? And might plenty of downtime and rest support my reconnection to source energy? And how about a connection to my intuitive self? Might a rest support my health on all levels? Mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, all of it. Might rest support my health on all levels? So with all of these coaching questions, if you're new to my videos, feel free to journal on them, feel free to meditate with them, feel free to just have the questions in your mind as you go through the next 28 days after the new moon becomes exact. Feel free to use these questions with your communities, with a group of people, to brainstorm, to allow yourself to tap into these energies. But just make sure that you're not looking for answers, but that you're allowing the answers to come to you. This is an intuitive process. Now, Mercury is also part of this lineup in Pisces and will enter its pre-shadow phase on March 1st at 2:45 a.m. New York time, when it reaches almost 27 degrees of Pisces. And so the pre-shadow phase is the first pass that Mercury goes through in the same area that Mercury will later revisit during the retrograde phase and then during the post-shadow phase. So 3 times it goes through the same passage between March 1st and April 25th. And that area is 26.5 degrees of Pisces to 9.5 degrees of Aries. So within that frame, Mercury goes back and forth. And the area of your life that relates to this place in your birth chart will require examination during the months of March and April. So feel free to reach out for a reading if you want some more support with this so you can understand it a little bit better and what you can do to support yourself during those 2 months. Now, Mercury is known as the planet of communication, or you can also call it the messenger, because it is about information and communication and exchanges. And so, like I already mentioned, Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. And the current South Node is also in Virgo. So Mercury is connected to our current South Node journey at this time. And Mercury will be in Pisces until March 3rd, and then again from March 29th to April 15th, 16th, because of that retrograde phase, because it moves back and forth. And Mercury in Pisces encourages us to let go of old thought patterns and reconnecting to our essence and spiritual connection to life itself. So you could say that Mercury's connection with the North Node and Neptune in Pisces during the new moon really encourages us to transcend our routine ways of thinking and interacting and engage in a more intuitive and energetic way. And this might be difficult at times since, most of us have to go to work, most of us have to, get stuff done. So for some of us, this might be, challenging to say the least. But if you just give yourself that time in the morning or in the evening or throughout the day where you have a couple of minutes here and there where you just tune into that intuition, tune into that energetic world, tune into your own imagination or into what it is that you would like to be creating for the day. That can be really helpful and powerful so that you can get things done for the day. So ask yourself, could I turn the volume down on my outer life so I can hear my inner intuitive voice more clearly? So whenever we have time to do that, could I turn the volume down on my outer life so I can hear my intuitive voice more clearly? That's definitely the way to go. And then what if I opened just 5% more to the perfection of life? And what if I trusted 5% more the universal timing of things? And what if I trusted 5% more to the inner and outer processes that are currently underway, personally and collectively? Now, let's talk a little bit about some of the other aspects of this new moon chart. We also have the new moon trining Mars in Cancer, and this presents an opportunity to establish a rewarding self-care routine. It encourages us to seek support from familiar sources that provide stability and a safe environment. And this is also a chance to experience true self-alignment and nurturing. Now, over the next 28 days after this new moon becomes exact, it will be easier to go with the flow, trusting in ourselves and connecting from the heart. So ask yourself, if I knew I could now more comfortably address something from the past, what would I address? And is there anything I want to release? Anything I'd like to let go of from the past? And what would benefit from a greater sense of flow and trust? Now, there are a couple of more questions with this, but feel free to get to all of my coaching questions through the New Moon in Pisces article on my website. And if you're not currently a member, you can get the first month for free on my memberships, just to check that out if that's something you'd like to do. And also, besides the new moon in Pisces, Mars also makes some other harmonious aspects to Saturn and Mercury in Pisces. And I will go into more detail in all of that in my weekly forecasts, which I send out on a daily basis to my members. So feel free to, check out the membership if you don't have one yet. Now, we also have a square to Jupiter in Gemini in this new moon chart by the new moon. And so just be alert for undue optimism with this square, because that could lead to overextending or overpromising things to other people. You also want to strive to stay grounded in reality and avoid exaggeration or assumptions of any kind. So you want to ask yourself here is, when is too much too much? When it comes to my interactions, when it comes to my needing to learn something or share something. And how do I know I have reached that point? How do I know I've reached the point of too much? And then what gentle boundaries could I set to avoid going overboard? What gentle boundaries could I set to avoid going overboard? All right, and then the last thing I would like to say here with this new moon is that all planets in this new moon chart answer to Neptune in Pisces, and that makes Neptune the last stop of this chart and the most important influence in this new moon chart. And Neptune is, of course, in its own sign. It is still in Pisces, asking us to dissolve anything that keeps us from fully opening our hearts to forgive others and ourselves. And we can see the divine potential in others with Neptune in Pisces much more clearly. And so we lean towards a compassionate approach. But the compassionate approach also needs to move towards ourselves as well. So we cannot just move compassion towards others. We need to move it to ourselves too. It needs to be a two-way street, in other words. So ask yourself, who needs my forgiveness and higher love? And are there other entities that need my forgiveness and love? Do I need it for myself? Now, Neptune will be in 29 degrees of Pisces from March 4th until March 30th. This is an exalted degree, which will make Neptune's energy even more pronounced. And on March 30th, Neptune will move into 0 degrees of Aries for the first time in 163 years. This is a really big deal. And this is definitely a momentous event, which we will talk about in much more detail in our next forecasting forum on March 12th. So this webinar will be titled The Spiritual Warrior. Feel free to join us for this exploration of Neptune in Aries. And also, if you want to develop a better understanding of what Neptune is asking each of us to initiate with this new energy, and also we will gain more clarity about how we can step up and tap into our own essence more fully, who we are on a spiritual level. And so if you want to join us, feel free. There will be a link below. And then to sum it all up for this new moon, the next 28 days are an opportunity to tap into our intuitive and imaginative abilities, and then focus again on what's important for us without rushing into anything. You really don't want to be rushing right now. And with the beginning of eclipse season, since this is the sort of the entry into that wormhole, the coming months could offer some tailwinds that carry us to significant breakthroughs. Every eclipse season can foster breakthroughs, especially if you have personal planets in some of those degrees and signs that the eclipses are taking place in. And so we are invited to learn how to be conscious creators right now. We are needing to be more mindful of how our thinking and how our choices affect our personal and collective experiences. So many of us might feel maybe a little exhausted because so much is shifting collectively and individually speaking. And the inner work takes just as much energy as physical work does, sometimes even more so. So take really extra good care of your body, your mind, your feelings, follow your inner guidance, release, recharge, and remember that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. And so as best as you can, unplug and listen deeply to your heart, to your soul. Allow yourself to be with what is, even if it doesn't feel necessarily comfortable, without needing to change anything, without needing to fix anything. Simply trust the process, and then, only then, start to take action. Once you have allowed yourself to truly be present and let yourself be with what is, then take action. I really want to invite you to share about any of your spiritual practices or any of your practices that you have to help you get present and connected with your own essence. Anything that works for you, that you love, feel free to share that in the comment section below the video or on my website. Feel free to reach out to me. Let me know what is really helping you to get more into that peaceful place with yourself. But if you can share with other people too, I think that would be really beneficial for everyone. Now, if you do have an ascendant or any personal planets in 7 to 12 degrees of Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, or Sagittarius, then this new moon will have a greater impact on you than on other people. But even if you don't have planets or points in those signs or degrees, look where does 9.5 degree of Pisces land in your own birth chart, because that place, wherever it lands, that area of life, that is going to be highlighted over the next 28 days after the new moon becomes exact. Now, before we talk about new moon intentions, I'd like to just briefly mention one more time how all the ways in which you can deepen your own experience and self-alignment with the support of astrology. You can either join us for our special webinar about the moon nodes in Pisces Virgo, which will be live on February 25th, when we dive deeper into our current soul direction. You can also join us for the next forecasting forum about Neptune in Aries, live on March 12th, when we explore a new era in connection with our own and our collective spiritual journey. And you can also watch my webinar about the current exalted feminine and masculine energies called Courage Through Vulnerability, which is available for purchase on my website via my webinar page at astrologercoach.com. And so these are all the ways. And of course, you can also become a member to have the daily support if that's something that feels good to you. And yes, now let's talk about new moon intentions. The new moon is also the best time to set powerful intentions for this month's moon cycle. And these intentions are best written down soon after the new moon becomes exact and not during a moon void of course phase. So this month, the two best and most potent times to set intentions would be between 7:45 p.m. on February 27th and 3:05 a.m. on March 1st. So we have quite a long time frame there. And then again from 4:52 a.m. until 7:45 p.m. on March 1st as well. So that's all New York time, East Coast time in the US. If you live in a different time zone other than US East Coast time, I recommend that you join my Facebook fan page or follow me on Instagram or Twitter. I will post reminders on February 27th, on February 28th, and on March 1st to let you know when to set your intentions. So that way, when you see those reminders pop up, you can sit down and write down your intentions. And then for more information about setting new moon intentions, feel free to read my article on the subject, which is available also on my website, and there will be a link below this video. And yeah, that's it. Have a fantastic new moon. If you are a member, I will see you again in about 2 weeks for the full moon video. And if you're not a member, I will see you either one of those events that I mentioned, or during the next new moon video. And for those of you who are interested, want to do a one-on-one reading, I'm happy to support you through that as well. Now, much love, as best as you can. Take really good care of your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being. Have a fantastic new moon. And I'm astrologer coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.